Hello everyone, welcome to General Psychology, Psychology 101, and today we're going to be talking about emotions. So what is an emotion? Well, an emotion, unlike affect or diffuse general mood, an emotion is a conscious evaluative reaction to a specific event that has occurred. So it's this kind of feeling or reaction to something that occurs in our environment. There are different theories of emotion that attempt to understand exactly what an emotion is. The Cannon-Bard theory focuses on two parallel processes, so two processes that occur at the same time. We have physiological arousal, and then we also have this conscious experience of what an emotion is. So we might have increased heart rate, sweaty palms, and we also consciously experience fear at the same time. Whereas the Schachter and Singer theory of emotion focuses on a two-stage model. It's the idea that we first experience physiological arousal, and then we try to label or understand that arousal in the form of an emotion. So we may experience the increased heart rate, the sweaty palms, and then we might look at our environment, look at our surroundings, we see a bear, and so we think, oh, okay, that must mean that I am feeling fear right now. It's a way of labeling it. Some research has found that emotions, at least 6 emotions, are relatively universal across cultures, especially in the facial expressions that are associated with them and people's ability to recognize emotions in others by recognizing these facial expressions. So these 6 basic or primary emotions are happiness, anger, sadness, surprise, fear, and disgust, most of which were identified in the Disney movie Inside Out. We can also have self-conscious emotions such as envy, shame, guilt, embarrassment, regret, pride. These are all emotions that involve the self in some way, shape, or form. It can be evaluating the self negatively or positively. It can be focusing on behaviors that one took in the past and how they led to positive or negative consequences, for example. And one way of understanding emotions is through what's known as appraisal theory. This is the idea that we can identify an emotion that a person is experiencing by simply understanding how an individual understands their given situation. So we can ask a person, are you feeling positively or negatively? Do you feel like you're in control of the situation? Do you feel like you are responsible for what's happening? Do you feel like you can predict the situation, et cetera, et cetera? And if a person answers all these questions, we can then use this information to identify, oh, okay, well, given the situation that you're in, you are experiencing this specific emotion. So we have an idea of what an emotion is. Why do we experience emotions? Well, emotions have many different functions. First, they can help us provide insight into our true beliefs. Rather than thinking things through, trying to figure out pros and cons of certain objects that we're interacting with, we can sometimes just simply let our emotions drive our behaviors and drive our preferences. If we have a really positive emotional reaction to a burrito that we see, we might use that information to go to that burrito rather than trying to weigh the pros and cons of burrito versus sandwich for lunch. It can be more automatic or responsive than cognitions or behaviors. So sometimes we need to use emotional reactions or emotional evaluations, especially if we need to respond quickly. If there's a bear in the area, we don't necessarily want to take the time to think in detail about what we should do. Sometimes we want our emotions to occur spontaneously, and then we react in an appropriate way given our emotional reaction. Sometimes if someone hands us a shot of tequila and we have this initial kind of disgust reaction, that's going to help us decide not to immediately take that shot, rather than maybe drunkenly trying to think about whether or not I should take a shot. Additionally, emotions can also help us learn from mistakes. We often experience shame over failure to meet other people's standards. We experience guilt over hurting others. We experience regret over poor or past decisions. And these negative emotions that we experience can help us then try to repair relationships with other people or try to perform more successfully in future similar situations. Emotions aren't all great though. Sometimes it can lead to poor decision making. So for example, when we're happy, we tend to not pay attention to detailed information as much. It can lead to maladaptive health outcomes. So shame, guilt, regrets. They can help us learn from our mistakes, but in extreme forms, it can lead to anxiety disorders, depression, distress, even suicidal thoughts and behaviors. And prejudice, stereotypes, and discrimination are driven by emotional reactions. These maybe fear or confusion over other groups that we're interacting with can lead to us having prejudice against other groups or outright discriminating against them. So we know what emotions are, we know why we experience emotions, but why do we express emotions? If emotions are there to help us, learn from mistakes or interact with objects in our environment, why do we need to express emotions? Well, we primarily express emotions to communicate with other people. Sometimes that means expressing specific information about our environment, such as fear signaling that a bear is in the area. Sometimes it can elicit specific reactions from other people, such as an expression of sadness, encouraging other people to come and comfort you. And expressing emotions can also help connect you to other people. So for example, expressing guilt after wronging someone else or hurting someone else can break down barriers between you, and especially can break down intergroup barriers. So we think about the idea of reparations. Expressing guilt over past transgressions of a culture can lead to better intergroup relationships between those cultures. We can also distinguish between sincere or true expressions of emotion and faked or false expressions. Especially when we think about happiness and smiles. We have what's known as a Duchenne smile. This is a real or true smile. There are certain aspects of the face that are coinciding with a Duchenne smile. So a true smile, you see basically more accentuation in this area, and you tend to see lines here around the eyes. So if you want to detect a real smile from a fake smile, focus on the eyes, not the mouth. But we tend to see that people try to fake expressions of emotions if they're trying to communicate certain information to others. If they maybe want other people to sympathize with them, trying to fake expressions of shame or guilt can try to hurry up that situation. So we know now what some of the goals are that people have for them to express emotions, but not all types of emotional expressions are accepted. And in these situations, we want to regulate our emotions, not only the experience of emotion, but also the expression of emotion. Often when we talk about emotion regulation, we're referring to eliminating certain emotional experiences or expressions, but it can also apply to extending emotional experiences. So if we're happy and we want to stay happy, we would regulate our emotions to maintain that level of happiness. And there are different ways in which we can regulate emotions to varying degrees of success. So situation selection is a regulation technique where we basically decide what situations we want to be in order to make sure that we don't experience certain types of emotions. So people who have agoraphobia basically stay indoors all the time. They don't go outside because they know that if they do go outside, they're going to experience anxiety and fear over what might happen. So they're avoiding those situations. Reappraisal is a technique where individuals focus maybe on the details of a situation, or they might focus on different aspects of a situation in order to eliminate certain emotional reactions. So surgeons might focus on the precise details of what they need to do for surgery, rather than focusing on the fact that they're cutting into another human being, which can lead to sadness or fear, for example. And we can also have suppression as a technique, where people simply try not to think about an emotion or a stimulus that leads to an emotion, or simply not expressing the emotion outwardly. This often doesn't work, and most of the time it actually has the opposite effect. We see what's known as a rebound effect, where suppressing thoughts about certain emotions or objects, for example, tend to make people think about them even more. So that's all I have for today. Thank you for your time and attention, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.